So yeah, my name is Spencer Harrison. I'm now a Ballarat-based visual artist. I have my studio here at my home. And yeah, I've been practicing for about 14 years and specialising in geometric abstraction and colour. And in my practice, I'm kind of very curious and like to work across a lot of different mediums. So I do drawings, paintings, I do murals, sculpture, a bit of design, textiles, and video works as well. And so that's kind of why I got involved with Nick, because I wanted to kind of see what it would be like collaborating with a glassblower.
Yeah, and as you've all heard, I'm Doran Adams. I'm the glass part of this collaboration. And so I call myself a glass artist because I use multiple forms of working with the material. I use kilns to cast the glass. I also do fusings, but my predominant use is using the hot shop, where I actually blow the glass to create a whole different array of different objects. So I make production works that I can sell in various galleries, and then I also make more art-based works, and these are the works that we're referring to that draw inspiration from that 8-bit and really retro graphics, and using a really traditional technique that you can see in the objects there.
So I actually saw Nick speak at Pechakucha many years ago, and so he was looking for a collaborator for the Ballarat Craft and Design Week, and so I recognised the name and thought, great, let's put in an application, and so we decided to kind of apply, and were accepted to create something that was going to be a merging of our art and our craft practices. And the first step was finding some common ground between our two practices, and for us it was our upbringing in the 80s and 90s, and the kind of colours and the patterns and things from the pop culture of that era. As you probably saw, you know, in Nick's glass work and in the colours of my work, you can kind of see that coming through. So Nick's originally from Ballarat but is living in Melbourne, and so we both did a lot of collaboration actually virtually. Which is, you know, after COVID, we've got these great tools now. So we used online whiteboards and things and meetings to kind of start forming our ideas and kind of see this project come to life. So the first step was for me to kind of do some drawings for some designs that could potentially be made out of glass. And so I looked at kind of really simple forms and kind of trying to create something that could be a merging of sculpture, but also a functional object. So we were looking to make some kind of lights out of glass. So these are fake. These are AI generated images that we created. Yeah. The real ones are coming. But basically, glass is a very expensive medium. So we used AI to kind of help us not replace the creative process, but to help us visualize what they could be and kind of bridge that gap without spending all the money. So once we kind of had a bit of an idea of what we wanted to create, we started going back to our references and kind of pairing those up with colours. So we had to import some very expensive glass colours from Germany that would have the really bright, vibrant hues that we needed. And then once we had those, I could kind of develop the designs further and kind of start building out some specifications. So we had some really clear guidelines of what we were going to do once we got into the glass studio. And obviously, Nick and I kind of spoke and selected the best ones that we wanted to kind of create. And then it was into the hot studio to start making them.
Yeah. And so after looking at some of those designs, which were physically impossible for me to make, we then got into the hot shop, where we started to explore the forms that we could actually make, and as well as how densely we want all the color to be. So that's using some of that, as spoken about, very expensive color that we had to get in from Germany, which, you know, keeping with the Ballarat of it all, is very high in gold, hence the cost. And so this is a really good demonstration of glassblowing being such a great team exercise. So I even got Spencer involved in the actual making process of the object. So that's him giving me a blow. And so blowing up the glass and inflating it all up. Now, once all these objects have been made, we then needed to drill the hole. So as you saw in the sketches, they were all stacked up onto each other. So the way that we did it is by drilling a hole into all of them, which is an incredibly exhilarating experience for me because you have to go really slow, because if you go too fast, it just cracks the glass. So you have to go super slow. And then once we had all the holes drilled, I then took all the pieces back to Spencer's studio here, and then we aligned them all up into this, this light component that we fabricated up. So we could figure out the layout, how they all work together, how they slotted together, whether or not we needed to make any other components. And then we could then figure out which ones we wanted to do textures to and adding pattern to. So for example, one of the references that we were using was all this beautiful frosted plastic from the 80s and 90s. And so you can see over here, the example piece that I did is just a quick test to sort of have a look at what our options were. So whether or not we were going to have frosted pattern or whether or not glossy pattern with frosted everywhere else. And then that way you can see here are some of our pieces that we started making using the that frosted effect. So that way we were able to keep the pattern really quite controlled and very reminiscent of, you know, Rugrats and various patterns around that time. And then when they get assembled, what the frosted effect does is it allows the light to really get dispersed throughout the rest of the piece. But the pattern shines, the light gets to shine through some of those components of the pattern there.
That's not AI, by the way.
Yes.
That's real.
Yes.
So yeah, this was some of the finished products that, that we came up with. And so for the exhibition, we also wanted to kind of share a bit of that inspiration behind it. So we created this little kind of montage, a little 90s moment, the kind of iconic inflatable chair you probably all had. And we had a little TV that was playing some of those cartoons and kind of clips as well. So kind of, yeah, bring nostalgia to life through, I guess, physical objects. So yeah, this was kind of where we ended up with our collaboration, and it was a really interesting process for me to kind of, yeah, work with, you know, a skilled craftsperson like Nick and work with glass and see what could come of bringing and colliding our two art practices together. So yeah, thank you.